Hey, welcome back to No Hype Beer Reviews. Unless it's your first time, then welcome. Please consider subscribing. If you do, hit the notification bell, get all the updates. Really excited for today's video. It's Thursday, and sometimes on Thursdays I do Thursday's Thirsty Thoughts. And I'm really excited about this video because it's the second in a three-part series, which I've never done a whole series. People seem to really like the first one in this series, so I'm hoping to keep that momentum going. The whole reason I do these videos is I just haven't had a lot of time to do live streams. During the week is really tough for me because my job started an hour earlier this year, so I have to get up even earlier, so I'm less inclined to want to stay up and drink and do a live stream. But this allows me to interact with people who like to watch my videos in the comment section, so I try to come up with something that's hopefully engaging. So the overall theme of these three videos is hype. And if you didn't see the last video, it was what's the most hyped, or what are the most hyped breweries and or beers, and trying to keep that theme going. Today's is what causes hype. And I definitely know some of the things that go into it, but I think there's an X factor, or probably more likely X factors that I'm not thinking of. So that's kind of what I'm like really hoping in the comment section is people kind of throw out and disagree with the ones I've come up with, certainly, but I'm really just like, as someone who likes to think about this, I'm hoping people can be like, well, I think this is a part of it too that you didn't consider. So I'm really excited for that in the comment section below. So if you don't know, the reason I picked No Hype Beer Reviews as my name, some people bust my chops like I drink a lot of hyped beer, but from the get-go, it was always either drink beers that don't have any hype, or if I am drinking a hyped beer, to not let that hype cloud my judgment and just go into what I actually think of the beer. And so it is something I do think about, enough that I named the channel after it. So I hope that you think I have some credibility for this topic. And I think this will be, most people would agree with this. It's almost like economics 101. But swap out price for hype. If the supply is low and the demand is high for a beer or for a brewery, kind of equals hype. But I think there's more to it than that, because there are definitely plenty of tiny breweries that like local people are like, man, this is really good. People should know about how good this small brewery's beer is. I think back to like the Alchemist, Heady Topper, 15 years ago, let's say. You got lists like Beer Advocate's top 100 beers, and people are, trying the beers. They're putting scores into that. The algorithm does the rest. Here's the top 100 beers. So like you start kind of getting that traction, that hype that way. Today, certainly with social media, let alone still lists and things like Beer Advocate. What is that one they do, like the blind every year, like the blind taste test? Is it Paste Magazine? Like the best IPA, the best whatever, so like you definitely have those ways to drive up the demand. You also, just to kind of defend the supply demand piece of it, I mean, we have seen, and we can talk about quality in a different video of the following breweries, but we do, or at least I see, and some of the people I talk to have seen, less hype for breweries that expand, right? Like Treehouse is still hyped, but they're not as hyped now. They're bigger. It's easier to get their stuff. Equilibrium, Trillium, they've gotten bigger. The hype has lessened, and I think a big part of that is it's easier to get their beers. So that part of the hype train, the supply is too high, kind of goes to the wayside, right? I know some breweries that they'll make less of their hyped beers to try to increase the hype because there's less of them. Or, sometimes you see that move where it's like, we found another case of this beer we forgot to sell last year that we only brewed one time. It's like, did you really lose track of it? Or did you try to create a lower supply to make a higher, demand, to make a higher hype factor? And you actually had that beer all along and you knew darn well you were holding some of it to release at later dates. But I still think there's more to it than low supply, high demand, and then some of these ways you get the demand, word of mouth, social media, lists like on Beer Advocate. Because think about how many tiny breweries exist in the world that are making phenomenal beer that no one outside the area has ever heard of. So like, I guess this is the heart of it. What's that next little piece that starts getting a brewery the name? Where people who aren't just locals are like, yeah, I know it's tiny, I know it's hard to get their stuff, but I've heard enough about this that I want to go and get their stuff. So that's this week's topic. What causes hype for breweries and or beers? And I think I hit, I kind of, I'm not getting political, don't worry. But when I look at things in the world, whether it's politics, a conversation like this, I feel like some people are like, well, it's all this thing or all that thing. And I kind of look at these things as pie charts, and it's like, well, it's probably not just two pieces of the pie, 50-50, and half of people, one way, half the other. I think it's probably more nuanced. So I do think supply, demand are the biggest pieces of this pie chart, but there's little slices I think I'm missing. Some I inserted, social media, the list, etc. But what are some of those other maybe like little slices I'm not considering? So that's what I'm looking for. Comment section below. What are your thoughts on this? Let's get that conversation going. Once you're done doing that, make sure you check me out on Instagram and on Tapped. It's No Hype Beer Reviews at both of those places. So please like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, I forgot to say this. Shoot, I said in the last video, thank you for the idea. Eat, sleep, listen. I really appreciate it. We were just talking yesterday about this topic, so I really appreciate the idea. I hope you watched to the very end and heard the thank you. All right, and cheers.